Okay, so feel free to turn your cameras off too if you don't want to be in our video. All right, welcome everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Google Drive, specifically getting started, and then a few of the basics such as your folders, how to organize your folders, a couple of the new features too. So today we're going to talk about the cloud and what that concept is and how it works. If you come from like a Microsoft Word background or like Microsoft Office, I'll help make those connections so that you can sort of see how Office works versus how like Google Cloud works. We'll all access our Google Drive account. We'll get in there. We will then create, upload, share, and organize files. And we'll talk about all the different file formats beyond just Google Docs. There are other things you can create in Google as well. If at any time you have a question, please feel free to just jump on in. And we only have 20 minutes. Could someone remind me when it's time to leave? Would you mind helping me with that? I'm horrible with time. I always have a student help me with time in my class. Thanks, Amy. Thank you for offering. All right, so first, the cloud. So there are a lot of platforms that are called like cloud servers, and Google Drive is one of these cloud servers. And what that means is the information is saved to a server. So it's not saved in your computer hard drive like Microsoft files are. You don't have to use the same computer to access your files. You don't have to use a USB. Basically, the files are saved in a server, one of Google's servers, and that means you can log in with your Google account and access those files anytime, anywhere, as long as you are online. So that's the beauty of cloud computing. It's very flexible, and you're not tied down to one device. So Google Drive is really cool because you can create a variety of documents. So if you're thinking about Word and Excel and PowerPoint, it has all of those capabilities also. They're just called different things. You can also create forms for surveys and quizzes and data collection, and those can be really fun. And even the little kids can access those surveys. And then you can also collaborate, which you've probably taken part in already, where you can have a shared file, a shared folder, and your colleagues can collaborate with you, or students can collaborate together as well. And then the ability to share documents, leave comments. You can also alter the settings of documents so that people can only view them, or you can give editing access as well. So far, so good. Any questions about cloud computing or a few of these items here about, okay, great. So just to make sure that we all know how to log in, I'm going to exit out of full screen here. So we all have an sbusd.net account. So if you go into your Google Chrome browser, and if you have to exit out of full screen right now in order to see your Google Chrome browser, just do that up at the top. It says view options, and then you can click exit full screen. You can also use the escape key. So I have Google Chrome open right now. It's the one down here that looks like pretty colorful red, green, and yellow. And if you open a new tab, you can tell if you're logged in already or not. If you're logged in, you will see your beautiful face or whatever emoji or anything that you've decided on. And you'll also see Gmail and images. And then you also have what's called a waffle. And if you click on it, it shows all of your Google apps. So just give me a thumbs up if you are there or if you know how to get there and you're good. And then thumbs down if you need a little more talk through that part. Okay, it's looking good out there. Excellent. So like in all things, there's a million different ways to do the same thing, right? So to access your Google Drive, there's a few different ways. So one, and usually the easiest, is to do what I did here and to click the waffle by your picture. And when you click the waffle, you'll see all of your apps here. Sometimes you have to scroll down to see extras, especially things you haven't used ever or in a while. You might have to scroll down. Like I noticed my Google Classroom is way down there, but it's also here, yay. So this is what the Drive button looks like. It's triangular. So that's one way you can get to your Drive. Another way is up here in the corner left, you might have something that says apps. And if you click on that, it looks like an enlarged version, right, of the waffle. So there's Google Drive. And then last but not least, you can just go up into your web browser and you can type, not Goggle, Google Drive. And then if you search for it, it'll pop it up. That one, I don't know, it's not very fun to me. I prefer using my little waffle. But I like showing different ways to do a job because you might have a favorite way. Okay, so when you first open your drive, you'll probably see something like this. So now let's talk about what some of these are along the side here. So I'm going to go back to my presentation. And this is where the fun happens, right? By the way, disclaimer, I do not have like a perfect way for organizing files. And I have to say, just do your best. There's always a little bit of mess with Google Files, I think, just because we have so many that we're dealing with. So, but I'll show you a few ideas. So when you first open Google Drive, you're going to see that navigation bar along the left-hand side, and at the very top is new, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you also have some folders. The first one is priority. I don't really mess with that one yet. You have to sort of set things up in there. So sorry, I don't have a lot to say about priority. You have My Drive, and that's where people typically start out. This is where you can see the folders and files that you've created. You can move things around. Then you have shared drives. This is a somewhat new feature. So when you put a folder or a file in a shared drive, then everyone who is assigned to that drive has access to those folders, everyone. Also, I learned this the hard way. If you put something in a shared drive, you can't move it out into your own. You'd have to make a copy and move it out. So just be sure when you put things into shared drives that that's where you want it and that you don't mind everyone seeing your business, right? Then we've got Shared With Me, and that's been around for a while. And these are just files and documents that have been shared with you by the creator.
Angela, quick
Yeah,
question.
of
I'm
course.
sorry. In the shared drive,
Mhm.
so it's not only shared with the people that, like if you're sharing a document with your team, it's not only with just your team, it's with the whole school if they've
So
shared a drive with you?
yeah, it depends on who created the drive and who it's been shared with. For example, one of my shared drives is Virtual Academy, right? It
Uh-huh.
tells me how many people are in this drive. I can see the members. Right now there's 19 people. And if I click on the down arrow, I can actually view all the members. So if you want to be sure
Oh,
of who can see your stuff, and then you can scroll through and see who can see everything. But yeah, everything in this shared drive is visible by those 19 people.
and in that little drop-down menu, can
Mhm.
you change it to see that it's only a viewer, not an editor? Is that where you do that?
Let's see. Content manager, contributor, and viewer. Yep, so this shows you their different levels of what they're allowed to do in here. Like our friend here, he's a viewer, so he cannot make changes and edit.
Okay.
Yep, and Michelle Sargson owns the file, the folder. That's why she's the manager. And then the rest of us are content managers, so we have access to create, to share within the shared drive.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for asking that question. And shared drives are somewhat new, so you might not have heard of them before, or maybe your school started using one and you were like, what is this, right?
Well, I know the
Mhm.
district also shares items with us. So, like if Megan shares a document, it's in shared drive and then we can add it to our own drive. But, right? Is that
So
right?
I think you might be talking about Shared With Me. So if you want to just individually share documents with people, another way you do that is just by sharing the document with other people. You don't have to put it into a shared drive per se.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's two different ways to
Okay.
share.
Then I was confusing it. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no worries. And while we're here, so this is what your shared drive might look like. I do like to come and check this often because sometimes people share things with you and you might not know. So it's good to check your shared with me and see what's been shared. Also, side note, if you use Google Classroom, you're going to see a lot of stuff in here. So just be aware it can get sort of cluttered in your shared with me. You can choose up here in the top right to either show your files by name, or if I click on this box here on the grid view, you can also choose to see your files with little thumbnails to give you an idea of what the document or file is before you open it. Okay.
Angela, are
Yeah,
you going to go over how for that clutter issue of how to get those into folders?
absolutely.
Okay,
Mhm,
thank you.
definitely. All right, so, and then shared drives we talked about. So let's keep on going. It's shared with me. So these are files that you did not create, but you have permission to view and or edit depending on what the owner said and depending on the permissions the owner gave you. And then there's another little menu item here called recent. That can be a really helpful place to start, actually. That's where I tend to go because it will have the files that you've opened the most recently. So usually the things you're using every day. So if you click on a recent, starred, so if you star some of your items, then they'll be stored here. And then trash, things you've deleted. So here's a little challenge before we start organizing things. How about if we all practice creating something, but first let me tell you your options, okay? And maybe pick one you've never created before so that you can sort of get started, but also know that I'm not going to do like a full tutorial on all the features of these different items just because of time. But today the goal is just to create it, take a look at it. All right, so Google Docs, if you're familiar with Microsoft Word, Google Docs are most similar to that, like a word processing program. Google Slides, that is the yellow one here, and those are similar to like a PowerPoint presentation. Google Sheets is like an Excel spreadsheet. And then Google Forms is where you can create a survey or quiz. And then remember the beauty of Google, Google Drive is that all of these things save automatically as you're working, so you don't have to click save. All right, so let's just take a second here, see if you can go to,
quick
yeah,
question.
go ahead.
So you got the Google Docs, the little colored ones on your right there by clicking on the new, or where did you get?
Yep, you got it. So, and I'll show here real quick. So go up to find your drive. Remember, you can go to the waffle or to your apps.
Right.
Go to drive, the triangular one, and then click on new. And that's where
Right.
you'll see this pull down menu. Now the ones at the top, folder, file upload, and folder upload, just know that that means you would be pulling things from your computer hard drive and uploading them into Drive, which you can also do. And we're not really going to talk about it today, but that's what those are for. And these colorful ones are all the things you can create within Google. So again, Docs is like a Microsoft Word document. So if you've never created one, maybe that's what you want to try today. Google Sheets is like Excel. I'm thinking what I use them mostly for data, I guess. I don't make a lot of
Angela,
Google
I have a
Sheets.
question.
Yeah.
So I know that some of my colleagues use like the shout out that they do on Seesaw. Which one would you do to create like a little page that's a shout out to kids? Is it the Google
I
Docs
use
or the
slides a
Google
lot.
Slides?
It's really your comfort level. Google Doc would work just as well. I like using Google Slides, but then again, I use Google Classroom. So I'm not really a Seesaw expert. But yeah, Google Slides, you have more options to move pictures around. So the formatting and editing options are pretty exciting. Whereas Google Docs, everything's in line. So it's a little trickier to make it pretty. So one last thing, because I know I promised a little bit of organization and it's time to go in 1 minute. I just wanted to show you a tip. I know, right? I wanted to show you a tip for organizing your files. So see along the side, it says My Drive. Well, there's a little arrow next to it. And if you click it, it drops down and shows you the first like layer of folders that you have. And what I like to do, I created one just for this school year. It's called 2021, right? Like our school year. And if I click on the arrow next to that one, it drops down. And now I've got all of my subfolders by, I guess you could say by subject. And then I can drag and drop things into those folders. I didn't know about this, so I was doing it the really slow way. So again, let me just restate, I really recommend using these little drop down arrows on the side, because now look what I can do. Let's say I have a file. Okay, so I've got this picture, and let's say I want it to go into my SEL folder, because this is SEL. We're talking about using the chat wisely, right? So all I have to do is click and drag it right over to SEL and release. Boom. And it's a share. I shared this folder with someone, so it just warns me that everyone's going to see it. That's fine. Move. Now that file, I just dropped it into the folder I wanted. And let's say I wanted like 4 or 5 different things in here. I'm just going to put my math ones. So here's like my number talks. You can click on one, press down Shift, and click on the end of the ones you want, and it selects all 3 of them. Let me make sure because I can't really see my screen. Yeah, it selected all 3. Now I can click, look, it puts all 3 together. See the little number 3? Drag it over to math. Boom.
Oh, Angela,
Isn't that amazing?
you-
I know I had to
Angela?
show you that.
Angela, you have no idea how much time you
Yay.
just saved me
so
because
glad.
I've been doing it even slower. I guess I've been doing it the
Oh, no.
snail way. So I click on it and then gives me the options, move to the folder, and I'm looking for the folder and
Yeah.
it takes forever and I give
know.
up. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
No worries. Have fun with it too. Now that when I learned that, I was just moving things around like crazy because it was so much better. I know
Angela,
there's more to
you
say.
said-
Yes.
you said press shift?
That
What-
will select every file in between those, the first one and the last one that you click. If
Okay,
you
so
don't
just,
want to select a whole bunch, you can just do control and then click, click, click and select
Okay.
various folders.
Okay.
Yep. So shift
Thank
is to select them all between those two, and control is to select multiple, but just the ones that you click on. Practice it. You're not going to hurt anything. And then just, yeah, you'll get better at it.
Angela, you said, you showed us how to slide things into folders that you have created, but how do you create a folder from
Oh,
zero?
sure. Let me back up a little. So if let's say I wanted to make a new folder in 2021, you can just right click and say new folder.
Okay.
Yeah. And the same thing when you right click on a folder, it gives you all these options. Like I can rename it, I can change the color. I really like giving that one a special color so that it stands out because it's the one I use the most, right? And then I don't usually use starred. I'm sure some people like doing that, but if you wanted to star a folder, here's where you would do it. So
Can
right
you do,
click is your
can you do
friend.
that again, Angela?
Of course,
please?
right click is your friend. So what I did is I hovered over 2021 and I right clicked on my mouse.
To start a new, completely new folder.
Yep, and then you can say new folder. And now if I make a new folder, it's going to put it within the 2021 folders. So it's going to show up here.
Okay,
You know
so
what I
how do
mean?
you create one that it's on its own?
You would do the
So
same
folder.
thing, but hover over my drive and then new folder.
Okay,
Yep, good
thank
question.
you.
Of course. And I hope that everyone learned something that will make their lives easier. That's the goal,
Angela,
huh?
super quick.
thank you